God delights in reconciling opposites. God delights in confounding our expectations. This doesn't just apply to the way he answers our prayers, or indeed doesn't. It applies to the whole Christian story. Paradox is at the heart of our faith. We've just heard Jesus talk about the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem and about the end of time. Jesus tells us that when these things begin to happen, we should lift up our heads. We should, in a word, rejoice. So we have here an odd mixture of celebration and of destruction. It seems like we are children being told to stand back and enjoy the house burning down. That is, of course, not the whole story. Lift up your heads is the same command we hear in Psalm 24. Lift up your heads, mighty gates, so that the King of glory may enter. Tradition ascribes this psalm to King David, and it's likely that it was written for the entrance of the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem and into the temple. This was the sign of God coming to live among his people. Now, Jesus is also talking of God coming to live among his people. Once more, but in a new and very different way. At the heart of Jesus' preaching is his preaching of the cross. And that is what he is talking about here. St. John reminds us that Jesus' crucifixion in Jerusalem was his enthronement as king. That was his hour of glory. That was the moment he became visibly the King of glory. When Christ died on the cross, there were indeed signs in the sun and moon and stars. The powers of heaven and the earth were indeed shaken. So as witnesses to these events, 2,000 years later, nonetheless, we are still witnesses. In the new Israel, in the church, we too should rejoice. Like the entrance of the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem, Christ enters the story of humanity, our story, at his crucifixion. The entrance of the cross into human history is indeed the sign of Christ's triumph over evil. And here is the supreme paradox. The all-powerful God not only becomes one of us, but also dies like us. And whereas the destruction of the temple marked the end of something great, the death of Christ on the cross marks the beginning of something much, much greater. And what does all this mean? It's simply the great paradox of our faith. The transcendent God is very, very near us.